Hello everyone and welcome to another Porsche race day here on the iRacing service. I am Connery Medic, and joining me for all the races here today will be the ever lovely Mr. Paul Smith. We head to Brands Hatch for initially the support race of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup. It's the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge coming up first this afternoon. Paul, it's Brands Hatch. It's one of my favorite British circuits. I can't wait to get this started.
Yeah, it's an absolutely fantastic circuit. Is this true sort of old school track? Is this?
Did you say you're frozen?
Are really going to be challenged. It's not the widest of tracks, and overtaking will be at a premium. So the drivers have got to be careful, and it's more of a thinking person's track of getting past people. And yeah, definitely one that I'm looking forward to because it's always great action here.
Yeah, and in these types of cars as well, it could be particularly enthralling. We're seeing a first couple of qualifying times actually come through at the moment onto our screens, at least. Some drivers setting some early pace, some setting some banker laps. But one topic I didn't want to talk about coming into this one, Paul, is the return of Michael Gard. Remember, he got disqualified from round 6, excluded from round 7. And now he's back here for round 8 of the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge Championship. So some drivers might even have their wits about him, especially if Gard is behind them.
Yeah, that he will be somebody that people will be wanting to be careful around, given that he has picked up those penalties throughout the season. We just have to think back to Le Mans to
We're
start
about to get
with.
going. We're about to get going. We're about to get going.
And of course, the incident that he had with Simone Maria Marchena at Silverstone as well, going down the hangar straight into Stowe. So he'll be wanting to try and keep a clean nose and trying to show that, hey, come on guys, I can race in this series and I can be competitive in it, because he is really rapid in this car. He just needs to just calm down a little bit and show some consistency out there.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's, he has two choices coming into this race. He can either just go straight out of the blocks, back to his old self, trying to get very aggressive for these positions, or he can just take it a little bit calmer and just secure a solid result. He is still inside the top 10 in the point standing, so, and still plenty of rounds to go as well. So if he can just
Tyler, we're
get
just loading into the session. Stand by.
this event, I think he'll be looking a little bit better.
By the way, prepare to get the will resume shortly graphic ready.
And
prepare to go to that.
He will definitely be wanting to get going well here and try and get himself back up here.
This to them, or do they
that
need
certainly
to be
is going to be a big part of it. Yeah, these drivers, not just Gard, but also the rest of them as well. Sarika, Heuer, Webster, and Berryman. The top 4 that I think that are really going to be pushing on and trying to get this championship, because we are coming into the key part of the championship now. We're coming into the latter half of the season, and this is the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely, Paul. Another someone I wanted to talk about as well is that Moreno Sarika. He's had an absolutely fantastic last 2 rounds, picked up race wins in both of them. He sits top of the point standings at the moment by 6 points, all things considered, but it's a lead nonetheless for the Italian, and he's been driving superb in recent times.
Yeah, Sarika's doing a superb job out there, and really he is somebody who has got a big chance of progressing forward into the World Championships. He's a driver of immense ability, as Moreno, and that Williams Esports driver, he can do a really good job out there and really push on to win this championship. He's won 2 races already this season, don't forget. He's the only driver with multiple wins in this series, rest of them all with single wins. But you look at Antti Heuer, second place in the championship, not yet won a race. Pete Berryman, again, not yet won a race. So it shows that you don't necessarily have to be winning each race. You've got to be consistent out there to be able to be challenging for the championship.
Yeah, and I'm just seeing, at least on our little sort of point standing matrix that I have in front of me, the race wins have been basically spread across the boards. Basarico is the only driver to have won more than one race so far this season, and we're 7 rounds in. This is going to be our 8th one here at Brands Hatch. So it's those consistent finishes that are really going to pay dividends, and well, it's like that in pretty much any other series that you talk about as well. But heading into this one, of course, it might be a little bit of a different affair. And of course, you do have to also consider that, you get the monetary prizes, shall we say, for finishing inside those top couple of positions. So it's not just the overall season campaign that you have to be concerned about here. It is your race-to-race results as well. They're just as important. So, this is why we're seeing quite a bit of aggression, I suppose, from the last couple of races, as drivers are well aware the higher they finish, the more money they're going to get. Simple as.
Yeah, absolutely. Those top 5 positions do get themselves prize money. Winner getting $500, second $400, and keep on going down to $100 for 5th place. So these drivers all wanted to try and get themselves into the top 5 of the standings of this race. I mean, the driver has picked up the most so far is Cooper Webster with $1,300 worth of prize winnings so far this season. So he's in 3rd place in the championship, but he's the one with the most prize money. So it shows how he's not been always in that top 5, or he's had either really good results or he's then dropped back out of the top 5, which has meant that he's down in 3rd place.
Yeah, he is, and of course he's missed Cooper Webster in particular. Well, see, like you said, talking about Peter Berryman, he had a particularly poor round number 3 with that 20th place, so missing out on a lot of points there. But I'm surprised about Cooper Webster in 3rd, having missed round number 1. He's been able to claw things back with a good couple of podium finishes, a race win in round number 3 for the Australian as well. Sets him up for a pretty decent championship look here coming through the last 4 rounds of the season. Hello everyone and welcome to the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge. The drivers are taking themselves to the starting grid here after the qualifying session that we've just had. We're about a minute and a half away from getting the green flag here at Brands Hatch for round number 8 of the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge. Peter Berryman starts on pole position with Charlie Collins right next to him, Cooper Webster and Cooper Murray.
It's been an intriguing race, 20 minutes around this Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. Going to be absolutely thrilling. There's going to be plenty of moves made down into Druids. Surtees is an opportunity as well as Hawthorns. So there's going to be a tricky track to overtake at, and you've got to take those opportunities whilst you can.
Yeah, you have to capitalize on those chances here at a racetrack such as this. But Peter Berryman, you see him on the left side on pole position into Paddock Hill Bend for the first time. We will go green flag racing in the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge at Brands Hatch. Round number 8 is underway as these guys...
Don't forget as well, cold tyres for these drivers here as they're heading through. As we look further back, the number 12 car, and that is going to be, be good if I can actually see who that was. Westfield through Dingledale up towards Sheen Curve, up over the curb there on the inside. Be careful not to run it out onto the grass, so easy to lose control of your car on the exit there and head it on down in towards the final corner. But I can tell you in 4th place.
Yeah, there's a little bit of scrapping further back in the pack with that green car. That's Rudinger in the number 12 car. Dive down towards the inside of Paddock Hill Bend. Able to get that pass complete. And very simple one there for the number 12 machine. Of course, 20 minutes of racing here in this one at Brands Hatch. So still early stages here. But that was an absolutely chaotic first lap there, Paul. Lots of casualties taken in this. I saw Fenalosa have an off. We have a couple of drivers on pit lane as we speak. Gawler, Corpy, Muth, all on the pit lane trying to get a bit of repairs. You see some active fighting up on your screen for you at the moment. This is the battle for P2 and 3. Cooper Webster trying to defend from Charlie Collins. Collins looks to try and go around the outside there at Hawthorns, but can't do anything through there. Westfield outside, surely not, as it's these fast couple of right-handers. It's really a single line as Webster's slids, and oh my word, Charlie Collins into the Armco barrier. Elbows are out here at Brands Hatch, and you can see everyone trying to scatter behind to avoid everything.
Yeah, that was just getting wheels onto the grass there, losing control. Webster's been able to keep going, but he's got significant damage to his bodywork at the rear of the car. That's going to be affecting him, and that's going to allow Pezzoli to be able to put the pressure on now. But yeah, that was a big drama, and well, it was Charlie Collins who has come out worst out of that. He's down 25 positions to 27th.
Oh, that's going to hurt, let me tell you that. But just to give you an update on the positions gained, because obviously we've had all of these wrecks at the start of the race. A lot of drivers that were towards the back of the field and have been able to file their way through have gained a ton of positions. Rudinger is one of them in the 12 car. He's up 13 spots. Aaron Borg is up 13 spots as well. Boyd, Moon, they're up 10 and 11. Respectively. So those drivers that start at the back of the grid and are able to part the Red Sea, so to speak, they've really had a great time here in the first couple of laps.
Yeah, certainly. Heading down then. Down Pilgrim's Drop. It's a steep hill, is this? I can tell you from walking the track here. Around Hawthorns, head along the Derek Minter Straight, on board, with your Vodafone on board. This is from on board Pezzoli then, and he's putting the pressure on Cooper Webster, but Webster, even with the damage that he's got, is able to keep going at a good pace here so far. But Berryman has checked out at the front of your field, 2.5 seconds almost between him and second place. So Pete, looking for his first win of the season. He could be well in for this one, but still 15.5 minutes left, plenty of time to go here.
Yeah, we've seen about as much action as a standard race here in the first couple of laps, and well, with 15 more to go, like you said, certainly more on the cards here, but we're still on board with this Vodafone on board with Pezzoli, driver of the number 48 car Cooper Webster is that Cayman ahead of him that he's trying to challenge. This is the battle for second place. Like you said, Paul Berryman has, for all intents and purposes, checked out. 2.5 seconds ahead of the rest of the field at the moment. He's looking to be unchallenged in this race unless these guys from second and back can put together a good couple of laps to try and close that gap. But there is the battle for 7th. Caruso, Sipila, Guinness, Toivonen, all involved in this little train.
Certainly are, as they get the head on out of Surtees. And you know, this battle, as we say, 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th, all pretty close together here. And just staying line astern as they are at the moment. No real sort of moves being made. They're not really close enough. Sipila is the closest one to be able to make any moves in this queue of cars, but right now he's not close enough to make that move. You can, if you're a bit brave, feeling a bit brave, you can make a move into turn 1 at Paddock Hill Bend, and you may see that more towards the end of the race here. But still, this battle for second place between Webster and Pasoli, and also Correa behind, he's starting to sniff an opportunity here.
Still bubbling on quite nicely, isn't it? Across the line once again. We are estimated 10 laps to go at this point with 13 minutes and 40 seconds that we have remaining. Pasoli looking for the good run out of Paddock Hill Bend. There's a huge downhill section. The car gets light and it tends to push out wide as well. So you have to be very careful about that gravel trap. But drivers are able to get through there just fine. You can take a large amount of runoff there coming through Graham Hill Bend. You won't get a 1x for going that wide through there. It gives you a little bit of leeway. But Pasoli still continuing to apply the pressure to the rear bumper of Webster. And like you said, Paul, Correa is on the outside looking in here. You've got Bonga, you've got Sarika further back in the pack as well. And if I check the lap times, it looks like these guys are catching marginally. So Pasoli has to get this done quick, otherwise he'd be swallowed up by the pack. Looks to the inside at Westfield. Can't get anything done through there. Gives him the bumper coming through the exit of the corner.
Yeah, that's a classic move there. And we're having a look to the inside of Westfield, but it's not really the best overtaking opportunity there. The only real chance that you get there is if you get a cutback. And look at that now, because he compromised his line through Westfield, he's got Correa all over the back of him now. And Pasoli, he's having to work hard from going from attacking to defensive driving.
Yeah, he now has to look in his rear view and wing mirrors because Correa is there, ready and waiting in that number 14 Cayman to really try and haul himself up onto the podium. We're on board with the back of Caruso at the moment. This is a little bit deeper in the pack. 7th place at the moment. He started in 13th, so he's gained a couple in the opening half of this race. Sipila continuing to apply the pressure to the back of him, though that Porsche racing car has been pretty spicy quick in a few rounds of this season, and if Sipila can haul himself a little bit further inside the top 10, that would do wonders for his championship situation.
Certainly will. These guys, by the way, they're not actually that far off that battle for third. Tagging on to the back of that queue, so all of a sudden you could be seeing this go from a 3-car battle down to a 9-car battle before you know it. But look at the run that Pasoli gets out of Hawthorne's then. He gets a better run. He needs to be looking to the inside here. That's his opportunity. Down the inside, onto the brakes, and he's finally made that move. Second round he goes! Oh, and around goes Webster as well. The two drivers together. Oh, hold your brakes, Cooper.
Oh,
there we go.
Oh, Correa and what was that? Bonga getting involved through Sterling's Bend. This order has all been shaken up. What's it with these drivers here at Brands Hatch? It seems like it's all gone to their heads. With 11 minutes to go, Sarika has now found himself in 2nd place, and Caruso on the podium as well. It's all changed here for the podium spots.
6th to 2nd. What a jump there. 2 errors, 2 mistakes there. And it was because the driver making the move of Pezzoli down the inside at Steen Curve, it compromises him through there. He has to go slower, and I just don't think Webster took that into account. They got into each other around the Went, and then more shenanigans down at Sterling. So, yeah, Sarika, the big beneficiary, and Caruso now putting the pressure on him, but we're on board with Toivonen, another driver, 16th to 6th place. Great driving so far from Pekka.
Incredible. The cars that mostly started inside the top 10, which don't include Peter Berryman, who's in the race lead right now, are all out of the top 10. This is absolutely great. Oh, car off 14.
Background. That's Correa again.
Big drama there as these drivers continue to drop like flies in this race. It was contact with Bonga, I believe it was, as Bonga looks to the inside through the middle sector, just spun Correa around. And, well, I think everyone has to calm down at this point because this is getting a little bit too much for at least me to handle. Not sure about the viewers and of course, Mr. Nimkos Jr. at the end of this race as well might be getting involved. But looking at this, 9 minutes left to go across the line, 7 laps, and who knows what could happen for this podium fight now.
Well, that's it. That is an important point that you raised, that these races are looked at by stewards afterwards, and penalties are applied. So we always have to say with the results of this race, they are provisional. So, you know, just because one of your drivers, your favourite driver, maybe be affected a little bit and drop down the order, you know, this is, you know, they will get looked at afterwards and see whether there is any penalties worth applying there. But, yeah, looking at this battle then, 2nd down to 6th, really close together here. It's about a second and a half between these drivers here. 5 cars all within that space. You could almost throw a blanket over them, they're that close.
Yeah, Peter Berryman has 7.5 seconds over these guys. So he is off into the sunset. Goodbye. As long as he can keep it on the grey stuff, and I hope I'm not jinxing him here, then he'll be able to come away with this race win. But for the final podium positions, well, it's certainly all up for grabs in this little group that we have here. Group of 5, all the way down to P6. With Pekka Toivonen as the last car in that train. Caruso had a bad run off of Sterling's though, which might give Sippler an option coming in through Clark Curve, the final corner at this track, but it's not really a massive overtaking opportunity into there. Sippler might just decide to stick underneath that rear bumper and maybe try to make something happen into Druids, as now into Paddock Hill Bend, down the hill they go, and can Sippler get this run?
Yeah, you can see Pete Berryman then, top of your screen, just out for a Saturday afternoon drive right there through Brands Hatch in the Kent countryside. But the rest of your drivers scrapping away for those 2 podium spots that are available there. 2nd and 3rd place, they're at the front of the queue. Sarika and Caruso, the drivers behind. Sipola, Gunez and Toivonen all trying to get that spot as Sipola taking a tighter line through Surtees. Downhill Pilgrim's Drop, and this is Sipola's opportunity. He's looking, he's showing his nose, he's trying to upset Jordan Caruso here.
Yeah, just a little show of the nose to really rattle Caruso's cage, but he seems pretty strong in his defense at the moment. Trying to run out of time at this point, you know, into the final couple of minutes of this race. 5 laps to go. Next time these guys head their way across the line. Sippler is so much better through this middle sector, and he's really able to reel in that number 16 car, and this has given a little bit of space for Sarika to work with. He was right on the front of this train, and now he's starting to pull a gap there in 2nd place. So he's doing a very, very good job to be able to make that look a little bit more secure for him. But across the pit straight, Sippler has a run here into Paddock Hill Bend, decides to go the long way around. Slightly defensive there from Caruso, but a big wide arc for Sippler. He searches for the inside, no contact between the 2. Is the inside still available for Sippler into Druids? Yes, it is. In through the right-hand hairpin they go, trading paint for the corners, a little bit of contact. Caruso is spat towards the outside and loses the position to Guinness as well, as now he has to fight with Toivonen.
He's lost his wing mirror as well there as Jordan. Whoa. Oh, big drama there for Toivonen. Well held on the exit of Graham Hill Bend, and there goes Caruso around. Oh, into Surtees. It's gone from bad to worse for Jordan there. He's doing a safe rejoin, that's the main thing. But now that battle has gone from 5 cars down to 3.
Yes, it has. So Caruso is now out of that particular equation. He's fallen down into P10. Sarika still trying to maintain that gap in P2. Sipola and Guinness are the main challengers for that final step of the podium. Now it's kind of spread out this little group a little bit, but there's no reason why inside the final 5 minutes that they can't close up again.
I think Sarika now has been able to pull out that gap enough that he can just keep his head down and focus on himself. Looking further back here as well in your field. So that is the 23 car. That's Bonga, Antia Heuer and Cooper Murray involved in that. So Bonga and Murray and Webster not that far behind, all trying to have a recovery drive here after being involved in incidents near the start of this race. And Bonga, you can see the damage to his car. It's not in showroom quality. Down the inside, Antia Heuer. That's the type of move you can make. You can try and get the cut there if your car that's been overtaken heading in towards Druids, but no, Heuer makes that one stick.
Yeah, a very confident move there. He didn't really give Bonga an option there. Bonga left the door open, let him go. Didn't quite get the drive off of Paddock Hill Bend to be able to challenge into Druids, like you've mentioned, Paul. So he'll have to stick behind for now. Looks to the inside slightly, coming through Surtees' corner, turn number 4, but can't really do anything there. There's a battle further back as well involving Summers. You have that stricken car of Caruso as well, which dropped it through Surtees' corner. And you have Moon in P11 there in as well. So he might be able to move forward a little in this event. But basically, compared to the qualifying order here, it's basically just turned on its head with the exception of Berryman.
Yeah, so in your top 10, only 2 drivers started in the top 10. So that's Berryman, who's checking out at the front of the field, and Pizzoli, who's currently in 7th place. They're the 2 drivers that started in the top 10. So they weren't the rest of the top 10 drivers that started qualified further up there. They weren't involved in the lap 1 crashes, so they can't blame the start incident really. They've only got themselves to blame for getting involved in shenanigans throughout this race, whereas other drivers kept their noses clean, got themselves a really, really good spot. Here we go then, the 36 Cooper Murray on that recovery drive. He's down 11 places for the race so far. Looking to the inside the Druids, not happening. And Caruso coming under pressure now from Jamie Moon.
Yeah, so a couple of things to look at here as Moon looking to gain one more spot here, and well, he's already gained 18 since the start of the event. Looking for the 19th here in the final couple of laps. There's the number 3 car though. That is the battle for 4th place now between Guinness, Toyman, and you see Mikael Gard in the background starting to close in as well. So this might be a little bit of an action-packed last couple of laps if the right set of circumstances goes our way. But right now, it's all in Guinness's court as far as holding on to that P4.
Yeah, absolutely. Worth pointing out, Mikael Gard up 15 positions in this race. He started mid-pack in this race and has moved his way forward. So he's doing a good job of keeping in there and keeping moving forward in this race to go across the line once again. Paddock Hill Bend, tricky corner to brake for. You're always turning. You're up over a rise, then back downhill, and it is a steep hill. And undulations is certainly one word I would use for this track to describe it, because it is using natural topography of the countryside here. But still, Gunnez doing a good job of staying out there in 4th place, and he's only got 1:12 to hold on to it.
Yeah, that pressure though is constantly there from Toivonen. Gard is also continuing to gain as well in this situation. I'm seeing number 23 on pit lane, in fact, has had an incident somewhere on circuit, and it was an incident with Cooper Murray, in fact, just a couple of moments ago, that spun him off the circuit and hard into the barriers. So Brands Hatch takes another victim here in this race. Coming up to 40 seconds to go, though. Peter Berryman is heading his way through Sterling's at the moment, so we will get one more lap here as far as he's concerned. It's all about this battle for P4, though. Can Toivonen find that extra couple of tenths of a second on this final lap to be able to get up that one spot?
I don't think he will. I think he's just going to have to just settle himself into 5th place in this race. It's still $100 of prize money is 5th place, so you're still going to earn yourself a nice little bit of pocket money for you going into the second half of August. But Gard, he is loitering in the background of these, but he's not really putting the pressure on at the moment. But Toivonen all over the rear bumper of Gunez and trying his best to put him off to force a mistake out of him.
Yeah, scrapping further back as well, Petzoli and Rudinger. The positions just inside the top 10 there, P7 and 8, deciding to have a little bit of a battle here at the end of the race. Oh my word, very wide there out of Graham Hill Bend. Might give Rudinger the opportunity around the outside at Surtees. Not the most ideal option. Petzoli looking for the drive off the corner from that inside line. But there's the run there for Rudinger coming down through towards Hawthorns then, as they go down the dip, and then Rudinger around the outside here at the fast right-hander. Surely not. They give each other racing room here in the battle for P7. Rudinger still having to go the long way around at Westfield. Careful with the gravel there. Keeps it within the bounds of the circuit. Petzoli still trying to wrestle this away. You can see on the picture-in-picture that Peter Berryman will be crossing the line to win round number 8 of the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge. But the battle for P7 has been won by Leon Rudinger, and now Charlie Summers looks to try and make a pass and put the final nail in Petzoli's coffin coming through Clark Curve, but I don't think he'll be able to quite get the drive off the corner. It's a drag race down the pit straight, but I think Petzoli's just about gone away with it. Petzoli secures P8, but it could have so easily been one further back.
It was only by a couple of thousandths of a second, though. I can tell you that was really close across the line between Petzoli and Summers, should I say. Great action. Okay, we got a little bit of shenanigans out there, but brilliant drive from Pete Berryman at the front of your field to just waltz away and take the lead in that one.
Yeah, an absolutely brilliant performance. Basically, as soon as he nailed the start, he was off and away and gapping the rest of the field as the complete and utter apocalypse happened behind him. So a brilliant performance there from Peter Berryman. Here are your race results here from Brands Hatch, round number 8 of the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge. Mariano Sorica picks up a second place with Matti Sippola pulling himself onto that final step of the podium. Quentin Guinness does hold on to P4 with Pekka Toivonen coming home in 5th place. Gard, Rudinger, Petzoli, Summers, and then Moon will round out your top 10. But Paul, I'm going to need to catch my breath before we head on to the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup, because I think everyone needs to calm down.
Well, I mean, if that is what we're going to look forward to later on, then these drivers in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup are really going to give us a thrill ride around here. I said that overtaking is difficult around here, and we saw exactly what I was meaning there. If you can put your car in the right spot, you can make it almost impossible for anyone else to get by. But that battling, especially for the second place, allowed Pete Berryman to be able to pull away and get a huge lead over the rest of the field. So Pete did everything right in his car, and he'll be absolutely delighted with picking up his first victory of this series, but also picking up a nice check of $500.
Yeah, absolutely. And it'll mean that he at least gets up into P3 in the final standings at the end of this one. Might be even P2, depending on how the mathematics works out. So a brilliant event from Berryman here. And that's exactly what he needed, because he has had a bit of a lackluster effort in round 6 and 7, the previous 2 races to this one. He really needed to get this one in the bag to prove his worth. But that is all the time that we're going to have time for here in the Porsche Esports Sprint Challenge. But don't go away, because we'll have a short break before we head to the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup presented by iRacing in those lovely 911 GT3 Cup cars. Don't go away.
too familiar with pain, I'm too familiar with pride. I've been on my knees 6 but gotten up 7 times. It was never even a question of is it gonna be mine. It's not a matter of chance, just a matter of time. I've been watching the clock, 10,000 hours go by. I keep putting in work, the tears are filling my eyes. I swear I've never been tested like this, but this is mine. It's not a matter of chance, just a matter of time. Never look back. If something's standing in my way, I always push back. If something seemed impossible, I never took that. Nah, cause now I know better. Can't stop, won't stop, I won't quit ever. The deepest waters won't take me, the highest fall won't break me. The blood and sweat is what made me.
I'ma get mine, just a matter of time.
The deepest waters won't take me, the highest fall won't break me. The blood and sweat is what made me.
I'ma get mine, just a matter of time.
I'm taking it to the sky. I'm never taking a break, I'm only taking what's mine. You say it's taking too long, I'm taking that as a sign. It's not a matter of faith, just a matter of time. Never look back, if something's standing in my way, I always push back. When something seemed impossible, I never took that. Nah, cause now I know better. Can't stop, won't stop, I won't quit ever. The deepest waters won't take me, the highest fall won't break me. Blood and sweat is what made me.
I'ma get mine, just a matter of time.
The deepest waters won't take me, the highest fall it won't break me. The blood and sweat is what made me.
green flag drops. Away we go from the start of this final feature race in the Porsche Esports Supercup. Brilliant launch.
40 of the best sim racers. $200,000 on the line. It's a race to the line. Josh Rogers wins his first race of the season. Who will rise to the challenge? This is the most competitive and sought-after season in iRacing World Championship history. This is where legends are made. This is the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup.
Hello everyone and welcome to race meeting number 6 of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup. A rather sunny Brands Hatch will play host to the racing here this afternoon, and we certainly have some brilliant action on the cards. We are about at the halfway point of the season now, with some front runners already established. The Brit, Sebastian Job, is on the top of the pile at the moment, with Rogers, Sanchez and Benecke all giving chase. The final half of the season is certainly shaping up to be one of the more enthralling ones that we have ever seen from an iRacing Road World Championship. Without further ado, I am Connery Maddock, and joining me on the broadcast today is the ever lovely and wonderful Mr. Paul Smith. Another race day, Paul, another chance to see some of the best road races on iRacing go wheel to wheel.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a thrilling afternoon of entertainment here for you from Brands Hatch. Tricky track to overtake at. We just saw that in the sprint challenge. But now these guys, this is where the real money is at. This is where the big prizes are. And this is where we're going to see how the second half of the championship is going to pan out. Because as you mentioned there, we're at the halfway point, and these drivers, they're going to be pushing on, trying to get themselves some really good results here.
Yeah, it's at this point of the season where we start to see really how the championship is going to shape up for the final couple of rounds. We have the standings up on screen for you now. You can see Sebastian Job leads by 18 points over last year's champion, Joshua Rogers. Alejandro Sanchez takes that third spot for the moment, with Max Benecke in that fourth spot. So those are sort of your top 4 challenges. There are some competitors on the outside looking in, like Dane Warren and Jeff Giassi. If they have a fantastic run here at the end of the season, then their name could be in the picture. But for right now, Job has all the cards in his pocket.
He certainly does, and this man that we're seeing right now, Alejandro Sanchez, what a season it has been for him. We saw glimpses of his skill last year towards the end of the championship, but this year he's really stepped it up a gear. And look at that, he has had his first ever win in this series, the first Spaniard to win in a iRacing World Championship Series. And look at those results there for the feature race victories there. You've got third place at Donington, the win at Silverstone that we're seeing right now, and third place at Road Atlanta last time out. He's had a tremendous run of form. Don't forget Road Atlanta as well. He won the sprint race as well.
Yeah, and we can take a little look at the schedule to see what's going to happen for the final half of this season. We have this event here at Brands Hatch. Then we head on to Spa-Francorchamps, Belgium. Then we head to the Nürburgring, Le Mans, and then we have that big old grand finale at Monza in October, which should be an absolutely brilliant affair, especially if the championship is as close, if not closer, than it is right now.
Certainly is going to be a thrilling end to the season here, and these drivers are certainly going to be pushing hard and to try and get that second half of the season out of the way, get themselves into as strong a position as possible. We've got qualifying ongoing at the moment. You can see the format here. So we've got 8 minutes of qualifying. The drivers get 2 laps here. The top 8 from qualifying, they get them. The top 5 from qualifying get themselves some points, but the top 8 gets inverted from qualifying to set your starting for the sprint race, and then the main race is set by your sprint race results. And well, I mean, this series, Connery, always gives us great action, and it's certainly one that I look forward to. And this track in particular, it's a little special place in my heart around here, being that I am a Brit.
Yeah, I mean, me and you both, with our Britishness coming into this one. We've had a fair few rounds at British tracks so far this season. Of course, we've had Donington Park already go by. We've had Silverstone as well. We have Brands to round out the trio of British tracks. This one, though, southeast of England, of Kent, established in the 1920s for motorcycle and cross-country racing before in the 1950s. Playing host to racing cars. And of course, Brands Hatch did host 12 British Grand Prix between 1964 and 1986. So it really does have that pedigree. And like I said already, Paul, I absolutely love this circuit. And speaking of Britishness, there's David Williams out there, the man from Leicester, out on his qualifying laps at the moment.
Yes, he'll be wanting to try and get a good run out of through clearways into Clark. Get that line hooked up right, run it right out to the edge of the track, then get your apex in late on. Run it out wide so you can get your entry into turn number 1. There you go, 1:29.7 for David Williams to start off his qualifying. So the qualifying times are going to start coming through here. He is a driver that could be a little bit of a dark horse here, because hopefully Alander, he's been in and around trying to get himself into those top 10 positions. He could potentially throw a little bit of a surprise, a little bit of a curveball for some of these drivers.
Yeah, he really can. Of course, Finnish sim racing has always been pretty strong in recent years as far as the top runners are concerned, but they're always there and they're always willing to fight. I believe they are the highest average iRating when it comes to iRacing clubs on the service in road racing, so that's got to be worth something, am I right? But Alander, we're on board with him as he heads his way through that final corner, coming across the pit straight. Start-finish line is just about there, and he's going to be able to... he's not quite been able to set that lap time, so this is actually the start of his first flying lap here for Alander. So into Druids then, the biggest braking zone on this circuit, and perhaps your biggest overtaking opportunity. Get on the throttle then, all the way down into Graham Hill Bend. Just feed the car through there, and then you get yourself set up for Surtees Corner. But just a few qualifying times having come through already. We're already a decent chunk into this session, Paul, and we've already got, well, we've only got now 5 times on the board, with Ricardo Castro-Ledo going provisional first.
Yeah, absolutely. 1:24.1 for Castro-Ledo, so he set the early benchmark. Maximilian Benecke there in second place, so he's not had a good first lap to get himself up there, but certainly he'll be pushing on his second lap to try and get those times in. But yeah, a few of the drivers deciding, do you know what, we're going to wait this one out and try and make it to go later on in this session. And Johan Hath then, the Frenchman from the Apex Racing team, he'll be just coming out of Surtees. You've got to get your line right. Don't take too much of the curb on the outside. Don't hit the curb on the inside of Surtees as well, because it will unsettle your car on the entry. And you look at him, he's running down the grass there. He's really We'll jump away from that view, but looking at the visor cam then, on board, through you go, through Westfield, down Dingle Dell, then back uphill into the right-hander, and Johan going strong, going hard into Stirling's. It's an on-camber corner, so you can carry a little bit more speed than you think that you would normally be able to. Into clearways, and then the Clark curve once again. And this Vodafone on board giving us a great perspective of this track and the undulations that they've got to face here at Brands Hatch.
Yeah, and you can see Johan Hath comes across the line and does not set the time in that particular instance. So he still has some time left to try and get a lap time on the board here, but starting to get to the short end in terms of trying to end the session. But Johan Hart continuing on his way. There's one of the MSI Esports cars out there. That's Alejandro Sanchez time in this session. He's on his second of 3 flying laps here. He did a 2:24.2, which puts him good in. It's a decent banker lap, I would say, there for Sanchez. In 5th place. Certainly a lot of room to improve, but at least he has that safety net to fall back on here in qualifying.
Yeah, absolutely, and he's not that far off of Max Bedeke's first, his time up at the top of the standings of 24-0 is that benchmark that everybody's got to work to. Interested to see that the Castrolado and David Williams up there in 2nd and 3rd. We've not normally seen them qualifying that high so far this season, so a little bit, maybe a little bit of changing fortune. Although we have got a number of drivers, as you mentioned, still yet to even put their first lap time on the board here. But Sanchez through Sterling. Oh, we're actually going to jump back to Josh Rogers on your main screen on board, coming across for his first lap time here. Sebastian Job in the bottom right-hand corner as well, going across the line. So we'll see what lap times that they get to set. Well, they're not actually setting any lap times at the moment, have they? No, they haven't. So we'll be waiting to see how these two, the championship championship contenders, go on. Although don't say that too loudly out in Spain, because Alejandro Sanchez will have something to say about that.
Yep, of course. With this qualifying session, though, Josh Rogers has the potential to completely and utterly secure a little bonus prize that we have here for qualifying. If you'll come away with the most first places in qualifying throughout this season, you get yourself a Tag Heuer connected watch, which is an absolutely brilliant prize provided to us by our title sponsor. And with Joshua Rogers' qualifying performances so far this season, in all likelihood, is going to take it here today.
He has been just imperious in qualifying, as Joshua really has, and he's showing that skill and that technique that got him the championship last year, and he's certainly putting it to practice here. But he's on the charge, he's on the attack here, and he's really found himself a little bit further down. I think he would have imagined that he would have gone a little bit better this season as he comes across the line now. 7th fastest for Rogers. Dave Warren currently provisionally on pole position, on top of qualifying, should we say. Sebastian Job right behind Rogers by about 0.004 of a second in 8th place.
If qualifying ends right now, although just saying that, Jumi fluke up inside the top 10, so still, returning to my point though, if qualifying ends now as it is, it will be Josh Rogers on pole position. So it'll be quite a turn of fortune for him as far as the reverse grid goes, because usually he's qualifying up at the front and he gets cycled back due to the reverse grid after qualifying starts 7th, 8th place in the sprint races. But for now, if he stays where he is, then he'll be at the very front for the start of the sprint race. But I know Josh, he's just going to still continue to push on. He wants these qualifying points. He wants that watch on his wrist as well as he continues on. He's ending his way up towards Sterling's Bend at the moment. Slightly on camber, left-hander. You can draw the car out a little bit there, but be very careful of the grass because the curb does end rather abruptly. So Joshua Rogers through Clark Curve then. This will be his second of his 3 flying laps. Drive to the line for the driver of the number 92 Commander Simsport car, and Josh Rogers gets promoted up into P3.
Yeah, just got Bobby Zelensky then coming across the line for his qualifying. He's going to be done there, and he's not going to be happy with how qualifying has gone today. Down in 30th in the qualifying here. Absolute nightmare for Bobby here today. So there's a couple of drivers who have had a bit of a nightmare further down your field. So really, it's quite close, but the entire field is covered by less than a second. So it shows how competitive this field is here today, as Jeff Gyasi is going to come across the line to set a lap time. And Matt Backham as well we'll look at here. The German through Clark Curve for the final time. And what will he do? Currently 18th in your qualifying standings.
Yeah, Backham, he's been a bit quiet so far this season. in the mid-pack, but across the line he goes. A 124.1 there for Mac as he will run out of laps to run here. There's one of the Racecraft Esports cars. That's Brian Lockwood heading his way across the line there to complete his qualifying. But Dane Warren provisionally in the lead here in qualifying. Of course, after the reverse grid, he'll get cycled back into P8. Whoa, big slide for one of the Coanda cars through there.
That's Rogers.
And that is Rogers. He won't be able to get the lap. He won't be able to secure that Tag Heuer connected watch this race.
Yeah, big drama then for Rogers. On his final lap, he was pushing just that little bit too hard, and that shows the level of commitment that these drivers have to put in here.
So no Rogers, winner of qualifying. It is Dane Warren that has been able to take the top spot in the session, but including that reverse grid, we'll be able to spot our starting grid here for the sprint race of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup. Jamie Fluke will be pole position here today for the sprint race, with Alejandro Sanchez also on that front row. Johan Haaf in third place, with Maximilian Benneker in row number 2. Fourth place for him. Joshua Rogers starts P5 with Ken Evans Jr. P6. Sebastian Job, Dane Warren, after a fantastic qualifying, gets filed back into that 8th spot. David Williams, Tommy Erskard, Ricardo Castroledo, and Mark Perez will round out down to row number 6. Jeremy Bootloop there, row number 7, with the Brazilian Jeff Giassi, number 14 for him. Graham Carroll P15, Mac Backham 16th, Set Source in 17th, and Dan Beats in the 18th spot here today. Thebe, Anderson, De Jong, Lockwood, Brunker, and Kaida Zoja will file back down to row number 12. UC Aquila and Kazubon a little bit further back. Tattila and Arlander make an all finish row 14. Cedric and Zelensky in the second to last row of the grid, and Carl Janssen and Red Bull Racing Esports' Patrick Holtzman will round out the 32 car grid that we have here today. Speaking of that grid, the drivers are starting to take their spots now. We've got around about 30 seconds left before we see the green flag drop here in race meeting number 6 at Brands Hatch of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup. Jamie Fluke, pole position. He benefited from the reverse grid, but can he hold on? Especially with one of the championship contenders of Sanchez on the exact same row. We're about to go racing here at Brands for this round of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup. It's a very long hold before we get going. Green flag is out. We're racing here in Britain, and Jamie Fluke has gotten a good launch from pole position. Single filed out immediately. 4 positions inside the top 5 there. Everyone giving each other space, but are there going to be any dives coming into Druids? Everyone covering off that inside line, scared that they'll be losing position. There's a bit of argy-bargy a little bit further back, bit of bumper banging involving Dane Warren in the mid-pack there, but a clean run through Druids for everyone else as they head into Surtees for the first time. Benneker is coming under a lot of pressure, and Rogers and Job, the top 2 drivers in the standings, are absolutely neck and neck together out there on circuit.
Yep, down into Pilgrim's Drop then. Everybody sort of getting themselves into order. Job made a great start, a great run through. Paddock Hill Ben to get himself ahead of Kevin Ellis Jr. He needed to do that to get himself onto the back of Josh Rogers here as Benneker runs wide. That's allowed Rogers and Job to go through there. Big moment for Max. And well, he's dropped down now to 6th place here.
Yeah, for someone who had a pretty disappointing result at Mid-Ohio, he can't afford to be losing positions like this in the sprint race. And now Kevin Ellis Jr. is looking to try and get past him. We're on board with Sebastian Job with that Vodafone on board at the moment. He's been able to climb up into P number 5 here from 7th on the starting grid. So a good gain of points there for Sebastian in this sprint race. And he has his direct championship contender right ahead of him. But we've got side by side for the race lead at the moment. There's Jamie Fluke. Sanchez around the outside of Graham Hill Bend. Is he able to make this one work? He certainly has the space out into the runoff. He goes. Fluke will have to surrender position for Surtees. The Spaniard back to the pointy end.
Yeah, you could carry the speed then through the exit of Graham Hill Bend if you take that wide line, and that carries you all the way through to Surtees, and that's exactly what Alejandro did. But Jamie Fluke right now, he won't give this one up. The Northern Irishman, he knows this track like the back of his hand, having raced in various series on iRacing around this track. So these drivers, they're going to be pushing absolutely every inch of this track, extract as much performance out of these Porsche 911 GT3 Cup cars, but Sanchez looks to be trying to make a little bit of a break at the front of your field because he is slowly pulling away from Jamie Fluke.
He is. He's already got about 3.5 tenths of a second over him, so this looks like it's going to be a pretty simple affair for Sanchez unless Jamie Fluke is able to find a little bit of pace here. Did very well in qualifying with that hot lap, but the race pace is what counts here in these sessions. Into Paddock Hill Bend, such a treacherous corner with the massive drop. You can see Sanchez dipping 2 tires into the gravel on the exit there. You can afford to do that, but if you take a bit too much of a chunk out of that gravel, then you're really going to be in very big trouble. But meanwhile, behind these guys, Rogers and Harth are absolutely scrapping it out. Harth actually drops a spot, so that is Rogers up into P3, and Job has been able to follow through in Rogers' tyre tracks to get past down on Harth as well.
Yeah, so that was, I was seeing that happening on my timing screen then whilst we were on board the Fluke. Yeah, Rogers, great run to be able to get himself ahead of Johan, and Sebastian able to follow him through there. So ever the opportunist, Sebastian, he's taken 2 spots from Joshua Rogers, making the hole for him. So as much as Josh is trying to get cars between the two of them to try and help his championship fight here, Sebastian is doing a fantastic job of just following him through. So it's now Rogers 3rd, Job 4th, and they've got their sights set on Jamie Fluke, who won't make this easy.
He won't. He'll be defending for his life. Will Jamie Fluke, as he'll try to hold on for P2, but we have a replay here deeper in the pack. This is involving Brian Lockwood in the Racecraft Esports car. He's heading through turn number 1, gets to the inside of the 110, ahead of him there, and that is Christopher Dambeats, I believe it is, and a big incident there on the way into Druids. Takes out another driver as he slides across right in front of everyone. I'm surprised no one else got collected in that one.
Well, Dan Beats gave him a really big hip check, which is what sent him out of control onto the grass. But yeah, as you say right there, I am surprised that Moore didn't get involved, seeing as that was right in the mid-pack there. But looking further back in your field, you've got Castrolado. He is further down in your field. He is down in, 12th place at the moment. But Dane Warren, he started this race in 8th place, and he's just stuck in that 7th place now, but he does look to have the pace over a couple of drivers in front.
Yeah, he has Mr. 11K iRating, Maximilian Benecke ahead of him. But Warren, of course, brilliant performance in the qualifying session to be the only driver so far this season to win a qualifying session that isn't called Joshua Rogers. Go with the Vodafone onboard with that driver of the number 57 as he tries to lock onto the back of the 11, Benecke ahead of him, but he doesn't seem to quite have the legs at the moment. We've still got about 9 minutes left in this race, so still some time to work with, about 7 laps by my estimation here. So Warren doesn't really have to rush, and he can just continue to apply the pressure to the rear end of that Porsche 24 by Redline car, and look to see if Benecke makes any mistakes. And the door's wide open, Warren's going to go for it.
Certainly will, but Benecke is getting closer as well to Johan Harth in front of him. So it's France, it's Germany, and Dave Warren as well, really pushing forward through to try and make the moves. But look further back, Perez behind Giassi then. You've got Setsource there and Matt Backham. So a nice queue of traffic here, down for 14th as well. So plenty of action throughout your field in this race. I mean, first down to 18th, covered by under 9 seconds, under 10 seconds, should I say, here. So really close action on this track. And it's fast and frenetic around here. Brandt Hatch, you've always got something coming at you. You've got the undulations, you've got the corners coming through, and you've got to be absolutely on the ragged edge. They're pushing the limits of adhesion to be able to be fast around the circuit.
Yeah, especially through that middle sector with the fast right-handers, you have to get the absolute perfect line if you're going to get anywhere near a decent lap time. We're riding on board with Jeff Giassi with the Vodafone on board right now. You can see very proud Brazilian there is Jeff, and he has the Brazilian fans at his back as well. But look towards the front though, because Rogers and Fluke are going side by side through Druids. It's the battle for second place, and it all stacks up through Graham Hill Bend because Job's all over the back of this one, trying to follow his way through as well. He might follow in Rogers' tire tracks again, coming through Surtees. Rogers washes up, they lean on each other, coming through Surtees. They continue side by side out of turn 4 on the way down the straight towards Hawthorne's Bend. Turn number 5, Fluke still has the inside line here, but Rogers will continue to try and force the issue. It's a run of speed around the long way, and it's brilliant battling between these two. Job is playing very patiently in that Red Bull Racing Esports car. Rogers out into the grass. He's held on to it. Job has been able to get his way through. That's important with the championship.
Yeah, Job, he saw the opportunity there, took it. He had to check up because of the contact between Rogers and himself, and also with Fluke holding that line. I said that Jamie, the Northern Irishman, wouldn't make it easy for any of these drivers, and that's exactly what you're seeing out there right now. But Job, he's got his set sight on the rear of that car of Jamie Fluke, and he wants by as quickly as possible, and he wants to try and put Fluke between him and Josh Rogers.
Here we go, there's another chance. This is Job's chance to try and get by Fluke now, but will Fluke be as firm with the Scotsman as he was with the Australian through Graham Hill Bend? Fluke is a massive roadblock compared to these guys. A mega defensive effort from the Northern Irishman. Job deep on the brakes around the outside at Surtees, but is there going to be more door leaning coming through here? Not in this instance. Job actually has a bit of an advantage on the run down the straight, but here comes Josh Rogers. He has nowhere to go. He's boxed in on the way through Hawthorne's. Almost make contact into that turn 5, and looks like Job is through. Rogers almost getting through. Fluke loses 2 positions in 2 corners. Might even lose a 3rd because Hart is looking.
He certainly is. I think you've got to move East Grinstead up into Scotland there, Connery, because the Englishman, Sebastian Job, up in front now, and he's trying to make a breakaway from Josh Rogers, but Job did what Rogers didn't do. He held it around the outside of Fluke and made it work to go up, because he could carry the speed through Surtees, up and then down into Pilgrim's Drop. So those drivers certainly going. Look at this, we've got 3 screens on the screen here. You've got Job up in that top left-hand corner. We're looking from the roof, looking back towards the car of Josh Rogers. We've also got Maximilian Benneker in the number 11 car on board in the bottom left-hand corner, and then you can see this battle from the TV cameras on the right-hand side. Great views of everything happening in this race.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm allowed 1 mistake per broadcast, and that was one of them. Of course, Job getting confused with his Scottish teammate of Graham Carroll as part of that Red Bull Racing Esports outfit. My apologies for that one, but we're inside 5 minutes to go here. Fantastic views brought to us by our iRacing staff, our producers, all the way on the east coast of the United States. Max Benecke is even on the back of this train for the podium positions as well, looking to try and go forward. He's trying to search all over the rear bumper of one of the Apex cars there. That's Johan Hart, the Frenchman, holding off the German at the moment as your championship leaders try to break away from this train.
I will say one thing, Alejandro Sanchez is absolutely checked out from 4 seconds is his lead right now. He is absolutely away at the front, and you can see it on screen right now. He's all on his own. The rest of them, all that fighting, all those 2 laps of Jamie Fluke holding up the Job and also Rogers just allowed him to be able to pull away that gap at the front. But right now, you've got Fluke and Hart together with Benneker in 6th place. Dave Warren still just sat there in 7th, not really able to do anything at the moment. So, yeah, great action. And, yeah, there was a little bit of door rubbing, a little bit of paint swapping. But we love to see that, Connery.
Yeah, I mean, it's sometimes close quarters action here, and as long as it's a bit of rubbing, a bit of bumping, I think is all fair. Of course, the stewards will look at incidents after both the races are done here. So if there are any penalties applied, it will come after everything is done here at Brands Hatch. But we're into the final couple of minutes then of the sprint race of this particular race meeting. It's still a massive train here for basically P4 and back at the moment. Rogers and Job have really extended the gap here for those final two podium positions. Everyone else, all the way down to P17, is bunched up in this train.
Yeah, it's sensational. You see that the gap between them, it's only about 5 seconds covering 4th down to 17th. It's sensational action here, but everybody's just trying to get themselves into a position to make a move as we head on into the last 2 minutes. We've got the 2-minute warning coming up, and these drivers, they want to get themselves the best result here in this opening race, because of course that sets the grid for the feature race here.
And Sanchez is looking very good at the moment. It's the top 3 in the championship, top 3, albeit in a slightly different order in this sprint race. We're riding on board with the driver of Kevin Ellis Jr. As he tries to work onto the back of Dane Warren in that number 57 car directly ahead of him. So great views from the Vodafone onboards throughout this event, and this is just the sprint race. We've seen some fantastic action already. It really does set us up quite well for that main feature event. 30 minutes of more of racing coming up after a little 10-minute break that we'll get at the end of this race. But through the middle sector for these guys, we're still on board with Ellis Jr., not able to really close the gap to Warren. But look at this battle. It is now Sebastian Job, we have Joshua Rogers, P2, P3, sprint race grandstand finish. Well, we better hope so. We're on to the final lap of the race now. So white flag for your drivers as they head their way across the line here. And Job and Rogers are stuck together like glue in through the first sector. Rogers a little bit wide, coming through Paddock Hill Bend. On the anchors into Druids, you can see he's really pushed that nose up against the bumper of Job, but Job is dealing with the pressure. Angles into Graham Hill Bend, and he's able to gap his competitor slightly here, but this is still not over because Job has a big defensive effort to do here. But does Josh Rogers want to throw away a good starting position in the feature race? If things go wrong with this move, he might even just stick behind and just take the 3rd place. But it's these couple of points that really can matter when we get into those final rounds of the season. It's a big decision here for Joshua Rogers. Sanchez has been off and away ahead. A brilliant drive from the Spaniard, but it's the battle for P2 and 3, which will be the main feature at the end of this sprint race. Coming into Sterling's Bend for the final time, turn number 8. Rogers needs a good drive out of here to be able to make anything happen coming up towards the final corners. Speaking of, though, Alejandro Sanchez, just like at Mid-Ohio, he comes across to win the sprint race at Brands Hatch. Sebastian Job 2nd, Joshua Rogers in 3rd. Fluke will come home in 4th. What a fantastic sprint race.
Absolutely sensational stuff. You look at how close the times are between drivers all the way through this field. I mean, even down, you go down to the back of the field, down to 30th. They were only 21 seconds behind the leader. So that tells you how close this field is in this series.
Here are your race results from the sprint race then. Alejandro Sanchez picks up another sprint race win. 2 on the bounce for him. Job in 2nd place secures crucial points over Joshua Rogers. Then you got Johan Haaf and Beneke bringing things down through P5 and P6. And then you see the bottom ends of the top 20 there. Bootsloop, Lado having some decent results here. And then you have those drivers that did not quite have as good results as they were expecting. Mitchell de Jong down there in P21 in particular. Martin Kronke out of this event. But before we get to our feature event, we'll go for a very quick commercial break, but we'll be back in just a couple of moments' time for the pre-main race show. Welcome back, everyone, to race meeting number 6 of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup. We have had an absolutely bombastic heat race here today. 15 minutes of action up and down the field, but it's the Spaniard of Alejandro Sanchez that comes out on top. He will get himself pole position for the feature event coming up in around about 8 minutes time. But Paul, what a brilliant sprint race. I'm so happy about how that one turned out. And if the feature race is anything like that, then I will certainly be smiling all the way through.
I had a huge smile on my face all the way through that race. It was absolutely sensational stuff. The second race will be a little bit different because we've got that extra half of the race again. So 30 minutes, it means you can just plan out your moves a bit more. And just saying in the YouTube chat there, it's a real thinking driver's track, is this? And you've got to plan out your moves there.
Yeah, you've got to really strategize. And in a series where you don't have any pit stop strategy, for example, it's all about, it's a strategy in the sense of picking and choosing where you need to make those passes. We'll actually have a look at how close the drivers are to what we call the bubble. So the top 20 drivers at the end of the season secure an automatic place into the 2021 Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup. You can see Jamie Fluke there in P20. He is on the bubble, so he is on the edge of either being in or out of next season. If you're out, then you'll have to go through that grueling qualifying process to get yourself back in to this series, which is what none of these drivers want to do. Let me tell you that. That series is very, very competitive. You can see some of the other drivers around that bubble as well. Joshua Anderson a couple of points ahead. David Williams is sort of under threat here as well. Krunke as well. One of the legends in iRacing, sim racing in the Road World Championship, he's under threat as well. You can see those drivers just below the cut line as well. You have Patrick Holtzman from Red Bull Racing Esports, a championship contender last year. Mitchell de Jong is 8 points behind the bubble as well, so he's under massive pressure to be able to even qualify into next season.
Yeah, certainly. Jared Filsell, of course, a race winner last season in this series. Alexander Tiber as well, another driver that you would be expected to be in that top half of the field as well. Another driver who's in that bottom half of the field, who's doing a bit of double duty, of course, is Bobby Zelensky. There, 27 points off of the 20th place, and he has had quite the week this week, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has had quite the week. Does double duty, like you mentioned, in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series and the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup. And, well, if he's able to claw his way through the field and somehow get a win in this feature race, that would be one of the best weekends that a iRacing driver has ever had in the top level of competition. He was able to pick up the roadway race win in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series last time out. There he is, leading the pack into the first corner, and he was basically off and away into the sunset during that event. Absolutely no one was able to challenge him. So you can do the good old joke of having been good at turning right as well. But I'll just leave that to the side and not annoy our NASCAR folks too much. But Zelensky is one of those talented drivers that is able to span disciplines, shall we say. It's exactly the situation as we had with one of the Sturgios brothers a couple of years ago, where he was able to compete in the Road World Championship, even in the GT World Championship that we had, and also in the eNASCAR Championship. So it's incredible to even be in this series, in one of those series, let alone in two of them.
Absolutely. I mean, he's shown that he's a bit of a road specialist on the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. Of course, 5th straight road course win for him on Tuesday evening, so really good result for him. And now in this series, I think he'll be a little bit disappointed with how his championship is going right now, and he'll want to get some good results here. I mean, he qualified 30th for that opening race, and his result from the last race as well, 22nd. He'll be wanting to improve and push forward in this series, in the second race, this feature race.
Yeah, we just saw a couple of, moments of him heading his way through the Silverstone circuit, which was the two rounds ago here in this series. And he's one of those drivers that I hope can make it clear and make it comfortable into next season. He's currently sitting 28 in the point standings, and I know he can do so much better. He's just had a bit of tough luck in a couple of rounds so far this season, especially that opener at Zandvoort. But if he can have a solid second half, gain some decent points here, then maybe he'll be able to break into that top 20 and not have to qualify again.
I'll be honest, I've always liked Bobby. Whenever I've spoken to him, he's been a real class act. He's been polite. He's been he always finds time for you to talk as well. So he's a really, really top guy, really nice guy, and the effort that he puts into his preparation for both series here at the World Championship level, it's just another level. It really is, and having to have those different disciplines really does show how he can be such an adaptable driver here on the iRacing service.
Yeah, it's the spanning both the Oval World Championship and of course the Road World Championship as well. You gotta give credit where credit's due as well to maybe some of the other drivers, because Johan Haaf also is in the Rallycross World Championship and also competes here in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup as well. So we have about 2 minutes to go here in warm-up. You can see drivers leaning on each other there. This is the highlights of the previous event. That was Fluke and Rogers trying to go wheel to wheel through the first sector, and well, basically through half a lap at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. And you see here as well at Surtees how Fluke was causing Rogers having to check up, and that allowed Job to just get into the back of him, which checked him up and pushed him back in towards the pack of cars behind them. Fluke was able to hang on. You can see how they went side by side for most of the lap here, all the way from Druids all the way through here to Westfield, and that then allowed Job to just sneak a look. Rogers got out on the grass there, which allowed Job to get that move done through into Sheen Curve. That gave him that crucial position there in that battle between those two, and then that lined him up then for the next lap, going through Druids into Graham Hill Bend, and Job showed that really want to stick to outside line through Graham Hill Bend and then into Surtees.
Yeah, that move right there for Job extended his gap to Josh Rogers by 2 points. And I said, coming towards the end of that event, it could be a handful of points at the end of the season that decides the championship. So that might be crucial at the end of the day. Of course, it depends on the circumstances coming through the next couple of races to see if the championship would even be that close coming into Monza. But it's those little moments there that really look so good for Job.
Certainly was, and Job, it could be those 1 or 2 points that can win you the championship. We saw how close last season's championship was and how that went. So you take every point that you can. And even if you have to think of the bigger picture and think, do I go for this risky move or do I get myself a really good haul of points? You've got to think that long, big picture. But one driver certainly performing is Alejandro Sanchez, who won that sprint race.
Yeah, and if he's able to get a good getaway here in the main race, then he could do the double. 3 other drivers has done the double so far this season. Job and 2 other drivers, and Beneke. So Job and Beneke has done the double so far. But here is your starting grid then. Alejandro Sanchez on the front row. Sebastian Job on that second spot. Josh Rogers and Jamie Fluke will be row 2. As you see the rest of them cycle their way through. You see Boots Loop down there in row number 6, the Frenchman. You've got Tommy Erskard a bit further ahead as well. And then cycling back, Graham Carroll, Jeff Giassi make up row 7. And you've had some good performances further back as well. Thomas Tatler making his way through the field to be able to start in row number 9 in this instance. And you've got to go run very quick through the field because the green flag is about to drop here for the main race here at Brands Hatch in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup. We are underway for 30 minutes at Brands as Sanchez has been able to get away well from pole position, leads into Paddock Hill Bend for the first time. Rogers has been able to secure position over Jamie Fluke. It's double file further back. It's side by side for the race lead as well. Sanchez and Job, they make contact through Druid. Drobes gets cycled back through the field. Rogers now tries to deal with the Spaniard. Big wide arc being taken through Paddock Hill Bend as there's the defensive move from Sanchez into Surtees' corner. The Australian of Rogers trying to find some ground around the outside. There's cold tires. You see Rogers just sliding about all over the place. And now here comes Fluke trying to get past Rogers on the run down the hill, then back up it in towards turn number 5. Fluke continuing to try and push the issue here, but he can't get any momentum around the outside. But Job, what a horrible, horrible start.
Beneke had a huge moment coming down towards Pilgrim's Drop as well. He was on the grass. We saw him on screen, and that's dropped him down 3 spots to 9th place there for that one. But yeah, really big moment that Sanchez locked up. He was under pressure into Druids. That allowed Job to try and make the move, but he ran out wide. We've got a car in the background off in the wall as well. That's going to be Alexander Tiber. No, it's a Janssen. Yeah, Carl Janssen, who is out of this race. But end of the lap here, Sanchez only just ahead of Rogers and Fluke. Job just a little bit further back. I thought he might have had a bit of damage from that lap 1 contact, but he seems to be okay.
Yeah, fantastic aerial view here brought to us by our racing producers as Sanchez is being pressured a huge amount. Rogers, I think he might have moved him out of the way coming through Druids there, but Sanchez is still somehow able to hold on and has his work cut out here in the opening laps of this feature race. Moves to the inside, Rogers to the inside, trying to wrestle that line away, but can't get anything done. Sanchez is looking to make that 911 GT3 Cup car the widest 911 you've ever seen.
Absolutely. Talking about getting pushed out the way, Dane Warren ended up off at Druids. He's dropped down to the back of the field along with a couple others as well. Brian Lockwood and Joshua Anderson involved in that one, but we'll stick with this lead battle because this is intriguing. They've got 30 minutes to go in this race, and yet they're going at it absolutely hammer and tongs.
Yeah, it's Rogers and Sanchez. Not much separates them in the championship, especially after Sanchez's performance in the sprint race. You can see Sanchez actually just almost running 2 tires in the grass coming up to Clark Curve there. I've not seen anyone do that. Trying to gain as much of the entry, get as shallow of an angle possible through Clark Curve to carry the speed. But as I said, I've never seen anyone else do that. The top 2 trying to break away at the moment. Fluke and Job are in that little secondary battle pack. They're heading their way up to Druids, and there's fighting further back as well. Erstgaard and Beneke deciding to scrap in the background there. You just see them at the back of the shot as they head their way through towards Graham Mill Bend, but Erstgaard on the inside. Is he able to come out on top here? Beneke is still giving it a good go and might be able to wrestle the inside away for Surtees.
Certainly is. Just jump back to your lead battle then. And Rogers keeping the pressure on here. He doesn't want to push too hard too soon here because he can run foul of wearing out his tyres a bit more than Sanchez in front. Sanchez can really look after it. He can really look after his tyres as we'll get a look then at a replay here in the big box. The 29 there in your main screen, you can see just a little bit of rubbing, and then in towards, oh dear, that's not great at Sterling's, and that's your driver of Carl Janssen. That was on lap 1, was that incident. Back to live action here, and Rogers, he's got to pace himself. That's what he's got to do. He's got to look after his tyres. It's a longer race, but still got 26 minutes just under remaining in this one. So he's just got to wait patiently. But if anybody knows how to drive this car, it is Joshua Rogers, our 2019 champion.
Yeah, you see this battle at the bottom end of the top 10 as well. Beneke, Erstgaard, Williams, Bootsloop, all involved in this train that's headed up by the German. The only driver to hit 11,000 I rating, but he's not really been inside the top 10 in this event. He's sort of languishing down there at the bottom end of the top 10, which is not the greatest in terms of his championship hopes, considering Job, Rogers, Sanchez are all ahead of him at this stage in the race. So he's going to be hemorrhaging points. So it's not looking great here from Beneke. I will say, though, I mean, at least over the last couple of races, Beneke has really been on the back foot. He had a poor sprint race at Mid-Ohio, recovered a little in the main race, but overall it hasn't been the cleanest season for Beneke. So that Porsche 24 by Redline car, it really needs to have a good run here at the end of the season. Otherwise, that championship is going to slip from Benecca's grasp once again.
Rode Atlanta last time out, so there we go. That's
two mistakes so far this podcast. Yay!
But still, it's semantics. It's fine. But yeah, I know exactly what you mean. The main point still stands though. Benecca needs to get a really good result here today. Really needs to push on if he is to try and challenge once again for this championship. It slipped through his grasp last year. But right now, he's got to really push on and try and get a good result. And keeping an eye on this lead battle, I can tell you that Jamie Fluke doing a really good job to hold on to third place at the moment. He didn't quite have the pace in that opening race, the sprint race of today. But this feature race seems to be doing well against Sebastian Job, holding him at bay. And the drivers behind, well, they're just in one long, big queue. Fifth, all the way down to about 23rd, or just in one big queue.
Oh, Sanchez went a bit wide, at least on my pictures there. Allows Rogers to close up the gap. That was happening at the pointy end of this field. You can see Giassi's car there, the number 7, involved in all of this at the moment. This is the view from inside, outside, the top 10. Lots of cars in one absolutely massive train heading their way around the circuit. But since this is the start of the feature race, usually drivers are a little bit calmer in terms of how they negotiate these sorts of passes. So no insane action so far this event. Of course, we did have a little bit of it between Sanchez and Rogers at the front of the field, and of course Job on the start as he cycled back into 4th and still trying to work on that gap, shall I say. So Job's certainly not out of this one just yet, but it was a massive scare in lap number 1 of the race, which is not ideal.
No, it's certainly not. It is something that can happen here at Brands Hatch. You can actually, usually, if you're in that mid-pack, running through the outside of Druids is usually actually a better, more advantageous way of getting positions right on that first lap. But you fall foul if the driver that you're alongside locks up and they go deep as well. So it compromises your line. But yeah, Giassi now putting the pressure on Ricardo Castrolado. He's flashing the headlights. He wants by. He wants to get by Ricardo here, but Ricardo doing everything right. He's not giving him, trying to move over to stop him getting the slipstream. And Giassi at the moment just having to patiently wait for his opportunities. But still 22 minutes, plenty of time in this one, but he'll want to make a move sooner rather than later if he does feel that he is the quicker driver, because Jeremy Bootsloop is just starting to pull away just a little gap in front of Castrolado there.
Yeah, really trying to work hard at this particular battle. 21.5 minutes left to go, around about 16 laps in this event left to run. So everything is just bubbling along quite well at the moment. You have this massive train that we've already described. You have that duo at the front of the field with Sanchez and Rogers having their own little situation up there. As you can see that Rogers isn't, well, I wouldn't say he's giving Sanchez a lot of space there going through Druids.
No, he's certainly putting the pressure on. And this is what Rogers has got to do. He's got to try and keep the pressure on here, not relent at all, and to keep Sanchez on his toes, because he will be pushing as hard as he can. But he can position that car in places where it makes it impossible for Josh to make a move, and that is what he needs to do right now. Through Hawthorns they go, that fast right-hander, 4th gear corner, drop it onto the brakes, down the gear for Westfield, plunge downhill through Dingledell, back uphill into the right-hander Sheen curve, as we're going to keep you up to date with everything happening. So the lead battle on your right-hand side, Jeff Giassi in the top left-hand corner as well, and further back as well is battling for 18. So battling everywhere. Mitchell de Jong in the bottom left-hand corner for 18th and 19th. So it's just action everywhere. It's so much action, but we have to give you the 3 screens. The other way we could give you even more would be to go to a quad box.
Yeah, we need more PCs in the iRacing studio to bring in more views at this point, because it's got quite a lot to keep track of. As you can see, everyone absolutely nose to tail. Everything has been fair at the moment, and I haven't seen many aggressive moves, although you do see a bit of a look from De Jong down the inside, at least attempted, of the Kuva car, I believe. That was Thomas Tattler, looking threatened at the moment, I would say, but still stable.
Yeah, De Jong, again, this is another driver who challenged last year for the championship, and he'll be a little bit disappointed with how this season has gone along. And he really is, as we saw in the graphics, he's the first driver out of that top 20. So he needs to get some really good points here to push himself back into that top 20 to gain that automatic spot for next year's championship. But you can't take anything for granted in this series. One little mistake, and with how competitive and how close the field is, you're falling back down the order fast.
Yeah, and especially if you're in this train for all intents and purposes, because if you get caught out of line, someone dives down your inside, and all of a sudden you just have a freight train coming through on you, and there's not a lot you can do about it. Further ahead of these guys, though, is an interesting affair. You can just see them go out of the picture there, between Mac Backham, Set Source, Carroll, all deciding to have a bit of a scrap into the first turn. But we're on board with Tapdela at the moment. Finnish sim racer, looking to try and keep the American behind him. Of course, Mitchell De Jong from California, and of course has a wealth of real-life racing experience as well, especially in rallycross. But Tattler is doing a good job to hold on to that position, but back to the race lead, because there is Sanchez, there is Rogers, and Rogers still maintaining second place for the moment. It's a bit of a weaving further back in the pack.
Yeah.
Job and Fluke.
Job has made the
getting
move.
A bit spicy.
Job has made the move. He's finally got himself up into that third place. So he made the move on this battle, as you can see, side-by-side action as well. That was that battle for Carroll Backham. You've got Set Source there as well as a go through. So, and Carroll, I tell you what, Graham Carroll right now, if it wasn't for bad luck, he'd have no luck at all, because he just seems to have a big target on the back of his car, and he seems to always end up in a gravel trap at various circuits in this circuit.
Yeah, he's had perhaps the worst luck of any driver in this championship, has Carroll. He had a brilliant start to the season as well. He had a sprint race win at Zandvoort and the main race second place, but since then it has been all downhill for the Scottish driver. My word, when is Graham Carroll's fortunes going to change? I think he's wondering that most of anyone else. But again, it's going to be another disappointing finish, I think, here in the main race at Brands. But that race lead still is continuing to be close. There's scrapping in and amongst the further back in the pack, but we'll get a replay then of this incident between, of course, Graham Carroll. He's on the outside here, which is so tricky. Staying on the outside through these fast right-handers, out into the grass he goes, and then it was the number 3, I believe it was, Source, down the inside, just making a bit of contact, spins that Rebel Racing Esports car out into the gravel, and Graham Carroll's wondering, wait, I'm in the gravel trap again in a main race?
Well, I mean, a little bit of a mitigating factor. First of all, he was out on the grass on the exit of Hawthorns there. That will have upset the car. Secondly, around there, just the merest contact, because the weight transfer, the weight is onto the front of the car, the merest contact in that rear quarter, and it's going to send that car off. So, yeah, big drama there for Graham, and that's dropped him all the way down here to 24th in your standings for this race. But this battle at the front has been really intriguing, but also battling 10th place, Bootloop and Castrolado as well. So Castroledo's been able to pull away from Jeff Giassi a little bit, and he's starting putting pressure on his stablemate there.
Yeah, the two teammates head their way around, and well, if there's one person that you do not want to have contact with, it is your teammate. So hopefully these guys can keep it clean amongst each other. Vodafone on board then with Ricardo Castro-Ledo as he heads his way through the up the hill right-hander of Surtees, and didn't quite get as good of a run as Vodafone was able to. But back towards your race leader, because here comes Rogers then to the inside through Hawthorns, now into Westfield. Rogers, can he get this move complete? Is he a car length ahead? Yes, he is. The Australian, first place in the main race for now, but Sanchez won't let him go.
That was a decisive move right there into Hawthorns. It's a tricky corner to make the move and make it stick, and that's exactly what he did. I just felt that Rogers was that little bit quicker than Sanchez into this phase of this race. The second portion of the race, after the 10-minute mark, just seemed to have that edge over Sanchez, and that's allowed Rogers then to make that move. It was a decisive late move to the inside of Hawthorn. That's what put them side by side, and Rogers now to the front of the field. That's crucial, because with Job getting ahead of Flug, Job is actually putting in some really quick times at the moment, so he's trying to get on to the back of these two.
He was about half a second faster on that last lap than Rogers. Of course, these guys had their side-by-side action throughout that previous lap, so maybe we'll have to wait for one more to see a more representative picture as far as the top of the standings are. But look at Sanchez on this Vodafone onboard. He's just absolutely wheeling that Porsche around the circuit and doesn't seem really at all stable. You can see he's even trying to get two tyres into the grass just to get that slight advantage on the entry to the corner, but sometimes the grass really catches drivers out here. Sanchez has really been doing a good job keeping hold of that car in quite precarious circumstances.
I think Sanchez has used his tyres up a little bit more than Rogers. Rogers was able to pace himself behind, use the slipstream to carry him down the straights. There's not that many long straights around here, but it's quite a fast flowing track is Brands Hatch, and he was able to maybe just look after those tyres a little bit, and into the second phase of the race, able to then push on, while Sanchez just seems to be lacking that little bit of grip at the front of the car. And Job, well, we'll have a look at the lap times. He was a tenth quicker than your race leader, well, half a tenth quicker than your race leader. So Job just have a little bit of pace, but not that much over the front two.
He has slightly differing lines there for your top two. Rogers took Druid very wide. Sanchez making the corner a lot more shallow. We'll get a replay up on screen for you now about how that pass happens up in towards Hawthorns. That's a big move there for Rogers. There's no fear in that move whatsoever. Sanchez, credit where credit's due, he gave him the space as soon as he saw that Coanda car peek towards the inside. Sanchez didn't turn in and it tried to fight it on the outside, but wasn't successful. Rogers showing, the reason why he was last year's champion.
I think actually Sanchez could have closed the door there. I really do. I don't think Rogers was quite alongside there. It's a risky move if you do close the door there, that is for sure. But I just don't think that Rogers was alongside enough to say that he had that corner. And Sanchez was maybe a little bit too generous in giving him that space. So, but thinking that big picture, as I say, championship, Sanchez is challenging Job and Rogers in this championship, but he needs to get more points over Rogers and Job here to be able to push forward and really challenge them. But he's still in a strong position.
That's a good lap though from Sanchez. 124.416 compared to a 487. Yeah, he's still in this. Maybe he's just taken a couple of laps to calm down, maybe cool the tyres off a little bit, not drive as hard, and now he's back in the zone. Sebastian Job dropped off the back of these slightly. If anything, he's maintaining the same pace as your top two, but not really closing in as he would have wished. So the battle for the top two spots, Sanchez, big moment. Just away from the pictures. He had a massive slide out of Surtees.
Yeah, that will harm his chances. All that of doing that, it'll put some heat through the rear tyres. Which with this car, with it being a rear-engined car as well, all that weight over the rear of the car really works those rear tyres with the high horsepower output of these cars as well. So he'll have put some extra heat in those rear tyres, which he won't need, because he needs to just cool those tyres down again. But that just allows Rogers to pull out half a second gap there at the front. We did see Setsource down in 15th when we just cut away from the leaders momentarily there. He's kind of in a little bit of a gap at the moment now behind Bakum and Perez, so he's working hard. But you can see the onboard with the replay in the bottom right-hand corner. Watch Sanchez is getting squirrely over that curve. Big drift, big slide. Able to hang on to it, so he's able to carry on there. Yeah,
we're inside the final 10 minutes now, 8 laps to go by my calculation. Sanchez needs to get his head back in the game. He needs to put in these fast laps here if he's able to keep tabs on your 2019 Tag Heuer Porsche Esports Supercup champion. But Rogers, he's been in this situation so many times before. He knows how to manage a race from the front. Sanchez doesn't have that much of that experience, at least over the years that he's been sim racing at this sort of level. So Rogers doing a good job for the moment. I haven't seen that car get nervous through any of these corners, but it only takes one mistake and Sanchez is right back in it.
Certainly, absolutely. And if any track will bite you, it is this track, Brands Hatchio. You've not got the tarmac runoff to the each corner sides there for you to be able to run wide through if you make a mistake. It is grass and gravel at the side of the track, so you make one mistake, you're in that grass and gravel, you're facing the wrong direction with a bunch of cars coming the opposite direction, so you go quickly backwards through a Porsche dealership, that's for sure, if you make one mistake right here. But look at this, Beneke further back, 7th place, dropped 1 position. So he's made a little bit of a recovery, hasn't he, Connery, to be able to get himself back into 7th, because he did drop to 9th place at the start of this race.
Yeah, but I don't think these sorts of positions are quite enough as far as Beneke's championship hopes are concerned, because, like I said before, all of his championship contenders, Job, Rogers, Sanchez, all many places ahead of him at the moment. So this isn't an okay race for Beneke, but it's not the ideal one and not one that will help him in the championship. So he's going to have to try and mitigate the damage here, maybe even get one pass done before the end of this and call it a job well done, I suppose. But right now, he's going to fall even further behind in this championship fight.
I don't think that he will be happy, or he'll call this a job well done at all. He'll be, well, let's strike a line through that one and let's start again at the next round. So, but time is running out, not just in this championship, but also in this particular race. But if ever there was a track for him to go forward to, Spa-Francorchamps the next round, it's certainly a strong track for Max, and he'll be trying to push on, get a really good result there. Lap times at the front, they have settled down a little bit, so that's why we're keeping an eye on this battle for 5th, 6th and 7th.
Yeah, absolutely. And, well, Beneke looking the long way around on Kevin Ellis Jr. through Druids. Not able to get anything done through there, but he certainly put himself in a very good position to challenge Ellis Jr. A little slow there through Graham Hill Bend. There's Sanchez in 2nd place trying to chase your race leader of Josh Rogers. You can see the lap time differences over the last 3 laps. You can see that overall Sanchez is dropping back off the back of Rogers, so unless he's able to turn up the wick, put the afterburners on for the final 6.5 minutes of this race, Rogers might be able to come across the line to take the win here at Brands. But this battle with Beneke further back is starting to get a little bit more heated between himself and Kevin Ellis Jr. And in fact, he's been able to drive right by Ellis Jr. There he is, just as we cut to it. He's just about being able to get by and keeping it within the realms of the track there, because you got to be careful with the grass. But Beneke has been able to make his way through, and now Ellis Jr. looks to come back at him, coming through Clark Curve. At least the entry of it follows right up to the rear bumper of the Porsche 24 by Redline car in that Apex Racing Team machine. Gets the run down the pit straight into turn number 1, goes towards the outside. Beneke still defensive on the inside. Big wide arc being taken, up and under move for Kevin Ellis Jr. Gifts him the inside line into Druids. Then it's the battle for P6 out there on circuit. Crucial points for both of these drivers. Beneke can't afford to lose any more than he already is.
Oh, but look at this. Brilliant stuff. Able to get down the inside, and before you know it, he's up ahead of Ellis Jr. So mark him up back to 6th place, back to where he started this race, this feature race. And as they go up the hill, it's a bit uphill, and then you plunge downhill underneath the bridge. This is where Johnny Herbert had a nasty accident in Formula 3000 back in the late 80s. Caused significant damage to his legs and ankles. But down through the right-hander at Westfield, onto the power, and Beneke now able to pull away. further back in your order. Dane Warren, he will not be happy with this, although he is battling with Valtteri Allender down the inside at Westfield, gets the job done, and well, at least it moves him up into 18th, but pretty much a nothing race here from Dane after having an instant in the early stages of this race.
Yeah, not the most positive of Brands Hatch races for Warren. The man in 5th place in the point standings would have been looking for a little bit more over the course of the 2 race events that we have had here. Coming into the last 4 minutes of this race, the last 4 laps as well. I'm keeping an eye on that gap to the race leaders, but I think Rogers has been able to manage this one quite well. So I don't think he's going to come under massive threat by the time this race is done, unless he makes a slight error. The battle for 3rd has continued to extend as Job is able to gap the rest of them. So this is basically one of your closest battles that you have out there on circuit. This one for positions just inside and outside the top 20.
Yeah, they certainly are pushing on and giving a good battle. Looking back, Kenny Vanellis Jr., he's dropping back slowly from Max Benneker, and he is now having to keep an eye in his mirrors because Tommy Erstgaard and David Williams, they're coming up behind Castrolado as well. So 3 red and white cars coming up behind. He'll be getting his attention, but Ellis Jr. is a feisty character, the Scotsman, and he will certainly put up a strong defence of his 7th place.
Yeah, there are some stories from our live events about the Scotsman, but I will save them for the live broadcast as Kevin hits his way across the line and continues to try and not let Beneka get away, but he's being rather unsuccessful in doing so at the moment. But back to the pointy end of the field with the Vodafone on board with Alejandro Sanchez as he tries to close this gap, but Rogers has been absolutely exemplary in the second half of this race, getting to the front, managing this about half a second gap back to Sanchez. He looks unstoppable at the moment, but 2.5 laps to go. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I've just been doing some back-of-the-envelope maths whilst this race has been going on, and Rogers, if it stays as it is, he's going to be gaining about 4 points over Sebastian Job from this weekend. So he's certainly looking to get a strong finish. And the thing is, until last round, he hadn't won a single race, not even a sprint race in this season. And then that feature race last week, or last time out, should I say, Rogers got that first feature race win of the year. We could be on for a second feature race win. And if you're going to make a challenge for a championship, this is the portion of the season when you really need to start ramping up the pressure.
1.5 tenths taken out by Sanchez on that last lap. He's giving it a good go here. And look how deep on the brakes he is into Druids. He's really trying to hound the back of that Coanda car of Rogers, of the Australian. He really wants to make a challenge of this coming into the final couple of laps. He's trying to make Rogers crack under the pressure, but I've very rarely seen that.
I mean, it's only a handful of times that we've ever seen Rogers make a mistake in World Championship level competition. So, yeah, it's asking a tall order, but Alejandro certainly giving it a good go here, still on board with him, and he's really pushing on, trying to get that mistake from Josh, trying to get him to push his tyres to the limit. We can see on board then Rogers on the top left from the roof of his car. We've got Sanchez bottom left on board the roll bar of that car, and then the TV cameras on that lead battle as we're heading towards the final lap of this race here, Conor.
In through Clark Curve for the penultimate time in this event. 0.3 of a second is the gap between P1 and P2. Sanchez has been attempting qualifying laps over the last couple of them, and he's really tried to reel in this gap. He's been successful, both drivers into the dirt, coming through Paddock Hill Bend into Druids. You can see how deep on the brakes Sanchez goes in that MSI Esports car, but he still can't do anything about Rogers. He just has to hound him now throughout this the rest of this first sector. Oh, big moment there from Sanchez coming out of Graham Hill Bend. He's got to be careful about that. He can't afford to bin it at this late stage in the race. Gap is up to 0.4 of a second between the two. Joshua Rogers is doing just about enough to stay ahead here in this situation. Sanchez needs a lap from the gods to be able to make this one happen. All Rogers needs to do is keep it clean and get to the checkered flag through Westfield for the final time, down Dingle Dell for the final time into turn number 7. Rogers, a big amount of curb on the inside there, really trying to maximize the track limits here at Brands Hatch through Sterling's Bend then, turn number 8, and then that short clearways straight away into Clark Curve, turn number 9. Joshua Rogers, our championship winner from 2019, will take his second main race win in 2020. Josh Rogers wins at Brands Hatch. Everyone else further back, Sebastian Job comes home in P3. Jamie Fluke, though, with a great finish, ends up in P4, which makes it a P4 in the sprint race and a P4 in the main race for the Northern Irishman. Johan Harf comes home in 5th place. As you can see, the two competitors here, the two championship leaders, Josh Rogers and Alejandro Sanchez, doing a little bit of a parade lap at the end there. But what an effort there from Sanchez, but it just simply wasn't enough when push came to shove.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't enough, absolutely. Always nice of you, producer, to tell you they're going to come to your camera. So these drivers, yeah, a really, really good effort from Josh. He managed his tyres in the first half of the race, managed the pressure as well behind Alejandro Sanchez, and then when he made that move, he made it decisively down the inside, down through Hawthorns into Westfield, and that certainly is. We'll get another look at it then from on board Joshua Rogers. You can see Sanchez just holding that middle line to start with, then moves it across late, and Josh sees the opportunity, looks. I do think that Sanchez could have taken his normal racing line and forced Rogers to get on the anchors into that corner, but fair credit, he wanted clean, hard racing, and that's exactly what we got there right then. So well done to the both of them at the front to give us some exciting competition.
Yeah, it was a very, very brave attempt there from Rogers, because he's putting his own fate into Alejandro Sanchez, and Sanchez leaving him the space through that corner. And Sanchez, you know, tends to have pretty exemplary racecraft, so he just left him the space. But as you said, Paul, he would be well within his rights to try and move over and squeeze Rogers a little bit, but he didn't. Let Rogers go, and then comes home in 2nd place after an attempted late race charge to get back to the pointy end of the field. So Joshua Rogers wins by 3.5 of a second over Alejandro Sanchez. Sebastian Job on the final step of the podium there for Red Bull Racing Esports. Then you have a P4 and 5 for Apex. It's Jamie Fluke and Johan Harf, the Northern Irishman, and the Frenchman, bring things down to P5. The German, Maximilian Benecke, a 6th place finish is all that he's going to be able to do in this event. Kevin Ellis Jr. in P7, Tommy Eastgaard P8, David Williams comes across the line in P9, and then Jeremy Bootloop comes home in P10. The rest of your top 20, Castro Ledo, Giassi, Perez, Backham, Setsource, De Jong gained some decent points at the end, Tatala as well. Dane Warren, though, was looking for a little bit of a better day for his point hopes. And then down to the inside of the top 30, have Zelensky, P24, not the ideal day. And basically the man that exemplifies not ideal days, Graham Carroll, also further back there. But those last two drivers, Brian Lockwood and Carl Jensen, out of the event early on. But there we go. Those are your official race results from Brands Hatch from the main race. And I gotta say, we've had two absolutely stellar events here today.
Yeah, it's been absolutely amazing. It's as we'd say up in the north of England, here in Yorkshire, it's been cracking, that one. It was great stuff, and all in all, really, really good driving standards. The level of competition, it just keeps on ratcheting up, does the level of competition here in this championship, and it just puts a smile. I've had a smile on my face all day today in this broadcast. It's been wonderful stuff, and it'd be really good to hear from a couple of those drivers to see how things went for them. It certainly was a really intense battle for them at the front of the field and in the mid-pack as well.
Yeah, I am seeing at least Josh Rogers start to get ready here, but overall, again, another brilliant race, another disappointing race for some drivers. We did mention Beneka throughout the race. You know, for anyone else, I think a top 10 finish is a decent result, but for someone of his caliber and for someone in the championship hunt, you got to be looking for a little bit more from him. And I don't say that out of spite. I really want to see him back at the pointy end of the field, like he was at Barcelona, for example, with the double race win there. But at Brands, it just seemingly wasn't his day.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't going the way he wanted to today. Another driver, I would say, didn't have a way. Certainly the feature race, it didn't go his way. Dane Warren, he'll be disappointed with that one as well. But I do believe we've got our race winner here.
Yeah, we have Josh Rogers feature race win, sprint race 3rd place. Josh, what happened in quali? You went first.
Yeah, I don't know. I just even in the warm up, I really couldn't string a lap together, and then in the actual quali, the second lap was decent. A couple of mistakes, and then the last lap was looking really good until I made a mistake in the last corner, dropped the wheel, and set myself into a half spin. So it definitely wasn't an optimal quali session, but yeah, thankfully we were able to get through the mess or the light mess. It wasn't too bad at the start of the sprint, and yeah, came away with a solid result there. I was a little bit impatient trying to get past Jamie, and then that let Seb through, but yeah, it was all in all. Can't be any happier with the result, obviously. And yeah, I mean, Brands put on a show. It was always going to be really tricky to pass here. But to be honest, I think tracks like that sometimes do end up giving you better racing than like say Monza, for example. But you know, it was fantastic.
Yeah, you did see a lot of action in that sprint race, a lot of close quarters action as well, even at the start of the main race, and then a little bit later on with Sanchez as well. How would you rate the racing here today? Because it seemed like everyone was very respectful, gave space. There's been a bit of door rubbing, bit of bumper banging, but otherwise it's all been fair. How is it racing up against someone like Sanchez, for example, like he did through the middle portion of that race? It seems like he's really giving you a run for your money.
Yeah, definitely. The last few well, he's always been fast, but the last few races, he's definitely turned it up a notch, and he's definitely going to be up there for fighting for the championship in the end with Seb and all the other guys. So yeah, it's nice to see him up the front. It's always awesome racing against him. We were racing clean, fair. Obviously, maybe a little bit of bumping here and there, but in a series like this, in a car like this, that's always usually going to be the case. Still leaving enough room to obviously stay on the track though, and yeah, in the end it put on an epic show. But yeah, I mean, he was insanely fast this week, and I think it's safe to say that he's probably going to be up there fighting for wins for the rest of the season. So you know, it's fantastic.
By our calculations, you gain around about 4 points to Sebastian Job in the battle for the championship. So, with keeping in mind with this season potentially looking to go down to the wire, we have our next race at Spa-Francorchamps coming up next. Is the confidence coming into that race going to be high, especially after this win?
I mean, I guess so, but at the end of the day, it's a very different circuit, and you kind of have to go into every race with a fresh mind, regardless of what happened in the previous one. So we're obviously still going to be working as hard as we can to get the most out of the car and the most out of ourselves for that one. Slowly chipping away at the lead of the championship, but it's always going to be tough. And I think, like you say, it's definitely going to come down to the wire in the last round, I feel. Yeah, it's at least like the amount. I mean, Seb is on it this season for sure, and he's consistently on the podium. So I mean, it makes it difficult to gain points when you have to finish either second or first. So yeah, it's definitely going to be close, and I think going into Spa, we're still obviously going to push as hard as we can, as always.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, Josh. That was Josh Rogers from VRS Commander Sim Sports coming home with the race win, and we'll move swiftly on and actually have a little bit of a chat to the man that came home in second place in the main race but won the sprint race, Alejandro Sanchez. Another absolutely amazing event for you here today, Alejandro. How is it? How is the feeling behind the wheel?
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with the result because today we had a really quick car, quicker than any other round, I would say. But kind of disappointed because I wanted to win as well the second race. I think I had really similar pace to Josh, but I gave it the inside when I shouldn't have, and he overtook me. So yeah, congrats to him. And but yeah, pretty happy. Good points for the championship. I think I can stay in the top 3 now. And yeah, thanks to the whole team for the car we had with us today.
Yeah, and it did look particularly quick in this event. But for you, Sanchez, of course, none of us expected really for you to be in this position. And I mean that in the best way possible coming into the second half of this season. Is there anything more left in the tank, so to speak, to really get one over the likes of Rogers and Job, at least in the points? Because you need these consistent P1s and P2s now to the end of the season if you're going to set yourself up for a decent challenge. So are you feeling confident about that?
Yeah, I took a very big gamble on qualifying. I lifted a bit just so I can stay around P6, P7, and it paid off because I had like such a small margin. But yeah, I thought Josh and Sebastian were going to stay behind because it's really hard to overtake in this track, but they didn't. So I have to think about my strategy for the next races. But so far so good.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, Alejandro. Finishing P1 in the sprint race, P2 in the main race. Another fantastic event for the Spaniard there, Paul.
Absolutely, and we'll move swiftly on then to the third place driver from this feature race, Sebastian Job. Sebastian, we saw how you were able to get a second place in that heat race, and then just a little bit of a moment into Druids at the start of this feature race. Just talk us through that race.
Yeah, hi. I don't think I've ever been more frustrated with a third place, really. It's still a solid result, but it felt like it could have been a lot more. Going into turn 2, me and Alejandro made contact, and then when we made contact, the force of the wheel snapped out of my hands and my finger slipped and hit the pit limiter. So I was kind of panicking to try and turn that off as quickly as possible. Then I almost spun in the next corner because I was trying to make up for lost time. Luckily, thank you to, I think it was Max behind me, who saw that I was having a moment and lifted off a bit, and Johan gave me some room, which was kind of him. But yeah, very frustrating. It felt like it could have been a lot more after race 1, but luckily managed to recover up to third and kind of minimize the damage.
Well, yeah, we're talking about minimising the damage. By our maths, you've only actually lost out about 4 points to Josh Rogers here over this weekend. So it's been damage limitation really for you. But second half of the season, we've got 4 rounds remaining. Spa-Francorchamps, how are you feeling going into that one?
I love Spa, so really excited to start practicing there. We've had some different tracks in the past 2 rounds, much shorter. So we'll be going to a longer track of Spa now, and I'm excited for it. It's nice to go back there after we raced last season, and I'll try and make up for what happened there last year with the mistake that happened. And yeah, hopefully it goes a bit better then.
Well, thank you very much, Sebastian, and all the best for the next round.
Thank you.
Well, there we go. That was Sebastian Job coming home with a third place finish in the main race here today. He maintains his championship lead coming into the next round of Spa-Francorchamps. But just to sum things up here, Paul, another brilliant event in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup. And it just sets the stage now for these final 4 races where I think everything is going to come to a head. Because we've had I think it's the same podium in this feature race as we had in the previous feature race at Road Atlanta, albeit in a slightly different order with Sanchez in second place. But all 3 of those drivers also top 3 in the standings as well. It's those 3.
Yeah, absolutely, and it goes to show the level of competition at the top of your standings as well, but right through the grid as well. I mean, 8.5 tenths covering first to 30th in qualifying shows how competitive this championship is, and going into the remaining rounds of this one, everybody is going to have the knives out. They'll want to get the best results as possible, not just at the top of the standings, but also in that relegation spot as well. So it's certainly been a thrilling afternoon's racing, and I'm looking forward to the rest of this season.
Well, with that, that's going to be all that we have time for this broadcast of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup. Brands Hatch is in the books, and our storylines continue into the final 4 rounds of the season. Next time, we'll be heading to Belgium to that legendary racetrack of Spa. You don't want to miss it. Goodbye.